Your money is more global than you think. When you swipe your debit card, when you check your saving account, when you buy groceries or fill up your car, you are not just interacting with your local economy, you are touching a network of international decisions, foreign conflicts, overseas supply chain, and global financial systems. And if that network breaks, even slightly, your money bleeds first. In the last few years, we have all felt it. Inflation out of nowhere, jobs outsourced or replaced, investments swinging like mood swings on caffeine. It's not just your imagination, your personal finances are being shaped by forces far beyond your control. But what if I told you can actually turn that global chaos into your financial advantage if you understand how it works? For those new here, I'm Muzaffar Teja, qualified accountant, investment banker, and your guide to cutting through the noise of finance. On this channel, we don't just talk about money, we talk about owning your life. Think personal finance systems, self-development frameworks, wealth building mindsets, and investment strategies that actually work, especially in a world that feels increasingly unpredictable. If that's your vibe, hit subscribe and ring the bell. We drop game-changing content every week. Let's strip it down to basics. Globalization is the idea that the world is becoming more connected financially, culturally, and technologically. Countries trade more, businesses operate across borders, people move, ideas spread, and economies merge. Sounds good, right? In theory, it means lower prices because companies outsource to cheaper regions, better product variety from around the world, more opportunities for investments and innovation. But here is what the textbook don't say. Globalization isn't just economics. It's power, it's control, it's the quiet rerouting of the influence from your local economy to international boardrooms. And guess who often gets the short end of the stick? You, the regular person trying to save, invest, and plan for a stable future. Because in a globalized world, the benefits are centralized, but the risks are personal. Let's go back 30 years. The 1990s were sold to us as the dawn of the global prosperity. Trade barriers fell, tech connected us, Wall Street got excited, multinational companies exploded in size. And everyday consumers were told, don't worry, this is good for you. You will get cheaper goods, more jobs, and higher wages. And for a while, it looked like that was true. Electronics got cheaper, cars were made in more efficient ways, supply chains optimized everything. But under the surface, local jobs started disappearing. Wages stagnated, job security became a luxury, and your ability to control your financial future got harder and harder because everything from your groceries to your gas now dependent on fragile global systems. Let me paint you a picture. A young family in the UK saved up for years to buy their first home. Then suddenly, supply chain delays from China and war in Ukraine spiked inflation. Interest rates soared, mortgage payments became unaffordable. The dream home? Gone. A skilled worker in the US built a career in manufacturing, but then their job was outsourced to a plant in Southeast Asia. Why? It saved the company 50% in cost. The worker laid off, pension frozen. A retiree invested carefully in a diversified fund, but that fund was exposed to emerging markets, and a currency crisis in Argentina wiped out 30% of the returns. What do these all have common? They are local tragedies triggered by global forces. That's the dark side of globalization. Not because the concept is evil, but because the average person isn't protected. You are connected to a global system, but not buffered against its shocks. Now let's make it real. You have seen headlines, you have felt the effect, but let's unpack them through the lens of your money. COVID hit, factories shut down, container ships stalled, semiconductors disappeared, toilet paper became gold dust. Prices spiked, availability dropped, and inflation exploded. Even though you weren't part of the pandemic policy decisions in China or Vietnam, your wallet paid the price. War breaks out, oil prices skyrocket, gas bills double to triple, fertilizers exports freeze, food prices surge globally. Governments tried to cushion the blow, but inflation still crushed savings and spending power. To fight inflation, the Federal Reserve hiked interest rates aggressively. Even if you weren't in the US, global markets reacted violently. Your investments dipped, loan rates jumped, your currency weakened. Why? Because the dollar still dominates the global system. And every time the Fed sneezes, the world catches a financial cold. Real estate crisis, slowing exports, rising tensions with the West. As China slows, global trade slows. If your job or business depends on international goods, manufacturing, or demand, you are feeling the ripple effect right now. Even your pension fund, if it holds Chinese exposure, is affected. You worked hard, you budget, you invest cautiously, you follow the rules. But then, boom! A war on the other side of the world, a rate hike by a central bank you have never heard of, a political decision made in a boardroom 10,000 miles away, and suddenly your savings are worthless. Your rent is up, your grocery bill has doubled, and your investments are underwater. This is the emotional tax of globalization. It's not just money, it's the stress of being financially vulnerable to forces you don't control and you didn't vote for. So what changed? Globalization used to promise prosperity for all. Now it feels like prosperity for the few, instability for the rest. The rich get richer, the corporations get bigger, but the average person, they're exposed to global job competition, volatile market, complex supply chains, currency risk, interest rate whiplash. And that exposure is often invisible until it hits you. In part 1, we peeled back the curtain on globalization. We saw how global forces, war, trade, and supply chains quietly control your everyday money decisions. But now, let's get even closer to home. Because while headlines talk about global markets and macroeconomic policies, you feel globalization in your paycheck, in your rent, and in your grocery bill. So let's make it personal. At its heart, globalization is a battle for where jobs live. Think about this. A factory in Manchester closes, that same work reappears in Vietnam. Your city loses hundreds of stable salaries because somewhere else labor is 70% cheaper. That's globalization. It's an invisible tug-of-war pulling work wherever costs are lowest. And the companies, they win. Consumers get cheaper goods, but the workers left behind, they pay the price. This isn't theory, it's history. In 1990s and 2000, America's Rust Belt was gutted, UK towns saw their factories vanish, even India felt it when lower cost regions like Bangladesh came into play. Corporations realized something. Why pay $30 an hour when someone overseas will happily do it for $3? And the truth is, if your job can be done from a screen or a script, it's globalized. Here is the shocker. It's not just factories anymore. The rise of high-speed internet and AI means accounting, customer service, software development, even medical analysis, all can be outsourced or automated. Just ask anyone who lost their jobs to a call center in another country or to an AI tool that now drafts email and codes in seconds. When work becomes global, employers hold the cards. Because every one of you asking for a raise, there is someone on another continent willing to do the same job for less. So what happens? Wages stagnate, security fades, and loyalty doesn't pay like it used to. Globalization gave us freedom. You can now freelance from your bedroom. You can take your laptop and work from a beach in Bali. Sounds amazing, right? But here is the other side. No guaranteed paycheck, no pension, no health coverage, no paid time off. The gig economy is global competition in its purest form. Platforms like Upwork or Fiverr, you are not just competing with your neighbor, you are competing with millions worldwide who can undercut you on price. This leads to what economists call precarious work. Always hunting for the next client, always available, no safety net. And that mental toll is huge because while the world celebrates freedom, the worker quietly lives in anxiety wondering if the next month will pay the bills. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Globalization makes the rich richer faster. Why? Because when markets open globally, owners of capital, people with investments, properties, companies can now access worldwide labor and worldwide consumer. But workers, they can only sell their own time and time doesn't scale. So while billionaires grow global empires, the average person fights to hold their ground. The top 1% captured 2/3 of all new wealth created in the last decade. Wages for the middle class in developed countries have barely budged after inflation. Meanwhile, the assets like stocks, property, and businesses, all globalized, soared. This is why if you don't own something, you fall behind. The gap isn't just in income, it's in influence. Global companies lobby governments, global investors shape policy, and the local worker, they just try to make rent. Now let's talk about where you feel globalization most, your bills. Because in 2024 and 2025 we have seen it, rent is up, food is up, fuel is up, energy bills are up. Why? Because prices aren't local anymore. That loaf of bread, it depends on Ukrainian grain exports, fertilizer prices from Morocco, shipping costs from Asia. When war or sanctions hit, those costs ripple straight into your supermarket. Your energy bill in London tied to gas pipeline in Europe. Your petrol in New York tied to OPEC decisions in the Middle East. Even if your country produces energy, global pricing means you pay global shocks. This one's subtle. Big investors from across the world now treat housing as an investment class. So a local apartment in Manchester, it's no longer priced just for locals, it's also influenced by global money flows. This is why housing bubble in one part of the world can quickly spread. Brexit, Ukraine war, global fertilizer shortages combined results, the average UK household spent over £800 more on groceries in 2023 alone. Amazon, Meta, Google, tens of thousands laid off in the US and Europe, yet those same companies open new offices in India and Southeast Asia. Why? Lower cost of labor, same output. Global conflicts and inequality push migration. Demand for housing surges, rent in major cities skyrockets. This isn't just a local housing market issue anymore. This is why so many people today feel like they are running on a treadmill that speeds up while their shoes wear out. Because for the first time in modern history, your daily financial life is no longer determined just by your effort. It's shaped by decisions made continents away. That disconnect is exhausting. It feels like the harder you try, the more the rules change in someone else's favor. There used to be a playbook: get a degree, get a stable job, save 10%, buy a house. In a globalized world, that playbook is outdated. Safe isn't safe anymore. Not when your company can outsource, your savings can be eroded by inflation, and your safe investments are shaken by global currency shocks. We have talked about jobs, we have talked about the rising cost of living, but here is something most people never realize. Even if you manage to hold on to your job, even if you cut your expenses and try to be smart, there is another game being played. One that quietly decides how far your money stretches, how safe your savings are, and how much your investments are worth. This game is fought in boardrooms and trading floors you will never see. It's the battle of currencies and interest rates. Money is only as strong as the currency it's printed on. If you earn £40,000 in UK and the pound loses value, your salary is worth less when you try to buy global goods, electronics, petrol, food. If you earn $60,000 in US and the dollar strengthens, imports get cheaper for you, but if the dollar weakens, everything feels more expensive overnight. Currency value is the oxygen of your financial life, and it changes constantly. When big countries compete, they sometimes manipulate their currency to gain an advantage. China has often kept the yuan weaker so their exports stay cheaper globally. Japan historically kept interest rate near zero to keep the yen weak and support exports. The US uses the dollar's dominance to influence global trade and finance. And when these giants clash, currencies move. It looks like abstract numbers on a chart, but for you, it changes your fuel price, your grocery bill, and your investments. Remember September 2022? A sudden mini budget by the UK government spooked investors. The pound collapses to historic lows against the dollar, almost $1 equals to £1. That crash made imports more expensive, drove up fuel costs, increased the cost of everything priced in dollars from raw materials to food. And none of that was your fault, yet you paid the price every time you spent money. In recent years, a new coalition, BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, has been pushing to trade without using the US dollar. If they succeed, we would see a future where the dollar isn't the king of the global economy. That might sound like politics, but for your finances it means the stability of your retirement funds could shift. The cost of global goods may fluctuate in unpredictable ways. Interest rates are like steering wheel of the world economy. When central banks raise them, borrowing becomes expensive, mortgages, car loans, credit cards become harder to manage, businesses slow down, layoffs happen. When they cut them, borrowing is cheap, spending increases, assets like stocks and housing boom. The US Federal Reserve, even if you are in the UK, India or Africa, affects you because the dollar is the world's reserve currency. When Fed raises interest rates, global investors rush to the safety of the dollar. Your local currency can weaken, imported goods, fuel, food, electronics cost more in your currency. In 2022 and 2023, as the Fed hiked rates aggressively to fight inflation, stock market crashed worldwide, mortgage rates doubled in the UK and Europe, many currencies dropped in value. Imagine this, you are in Manchester, you've got fixed rate mortgage, 2% interest. Rates rise globally. When you come to refinance, the new rate is 6%. Same house, same income, but your monthly payment just jumped hundreds of pounds. Not because anything you did, but because decisions made by central banks across the world. In 2024, a quiet event shook markets. Japan's yen carry trade. For years, investors borrowed yen at almost 0% interest and invested it in higher yield currencies elsewhere. But when Japan hinted at rising rates, investors panicked, unwound these trades, and global markets wobbled. If your investments included global equities, you felt this, even if you didn't know why. Here is the key idea. Global finance moves fast, and it always moves faster than you. Your cash savings lose value during inflation. Your investment swings with interest rates and currency moves. Your pension funds, often invested globally, get hit by these waves. Keeping your money in a saving account might feel safe, but in the world where inflation spiked 10% and your saving earned 2% interest, you are actually losing 8% of your wealth every year. Globalization doesn't just affect your job, it reaches into your savings account. Why does this feel so unfair? Because these risks are invisible. No one teaches us how to protect ourselves from currency risk or rate risk. But here is the empowering part. Once you understand how these forces work, you can make smarter choices and even turn them to your advantage. Here is a truth that might sting. The wealthy never rely on one income stream, one currency, or one country. They think globally even when they live locally. Instead of depending on a single job or salary, they own assets that generate income, real estate, stocks, businesses. They invest globally. They build intellectual property or skills that can earn money across borders. So when one stream slows down, another picks up the slack. Rich people don't just keep money in cash, they spread it. Stock, bond, real estate, commodities like gold, private businesses. This mix helps cushion the impact of any one crisis. Many of their investments are international. So if the UK economy struggles, their investments in UK or Asia can balance it out. High net worth individuals and institutions often hedge currency risk, meaning they take positions that protect their wealth if their home currency falls. This isn't something most people think about, but it's a tool that protects billions. You might think that's great for rich, but I'm not a billionaire. What can I do? Plenty. Even small investors can buy global index funds, FTSE Global All Cap, S&P 500, own ETF that includes companies across continents, use platforms that allow fractional investing globally, assets that produce income or grow over time, dividend paying stocks, real estates, even REITs if you can't buy properties, a side business that earns globally, freelancing, digital products. Cash savings are still important, but think in layers. Short term, 3 to 6 months expenses in cash, medium term, safe investments, long term, growth assets. In a global economy, your skill can be monetized anywhere. Learning high demand skills that travel across industries and borders is one of the best hedges against global uncertainty. Here is the core mindset of those who thrive. I can't control global chaos, but I can control how exposed I am to it. Diversify where you can. Learn skill that can't be outsourced. Own assets, don't just earn wages. Stay flexible. Because the truth is, globalization rewards those who adopt. We are not moving towards a simpler world. We are heading into a faster, more digitized, more interconnected future. One where money may no longer mean what it used to. Let's unpack the biggest forces already reshaping your financial future. Imagine a world where every pound, dollar, or rupee is digital by default. Your government can issue, track, and even control your money in real time. There is no paper cash, only government-backed digital tokens. That's the promise and risk of CBDCs. Countries like China, Nigeria, India, and even the UK and US are already piloting or exploring digital currencies. This could mean faster transactions, more control over inflation, but also more surveillance and less privacy. CBDCs give governments the power to freeze accounts instantly, program expiry dates on money, set restrictions on how it's spent, and once adopted at scale, opting out won't be easy. For decades, the US dollar has been the backbone of global finance, but that dominance is now being challenged. BRICS nations are creating trade agreements without using the dollar. Countries are buying gold and other assets to diversify reserves. There is growing momentum towards multi-currency settlements. What does this mean for you? If the dollar weakens long-term, global pricing could become more volatile. Import-export costs may swing dramatically. Your investments in dollar-based assets may lose relative value. We are entering a world where no single currency is safe. Globalization 1.0 outsource jobs. Globalization 2 will automate them. AI isn't just writing emails or designing images anymore. It's analyzing medical data, managing investment portfolios, writing legal contracts, replacing entire customer service departments. This means massive job replacements, more demand for creative, analytical, and entrepreneurial skills, and urgent need to build income streams AI can't touch. The lesson: if your income depends on repetitive tasks, your time to pivot is now. We can't talk about the future of money without addressing instability. Globalization has created massive inequality and people are pushing back. Protests in France and Germany over inflation, farmers in India and Netherlands fighting for policy reform, political upheaval from Sri Lanka to Argentina to the UK. In response, governments may tighten capital control, impose new taxes, restrict movements of money and people, create rules that hurt savers, not protect them. And once those policies are in place, it's too late to react. Let's shift from fear to strategy. You can't control the global system, but you can control how exposed you are to its shock and how ready you are for its future. Stop thinking about saving for retirement as the only goal. Start thinking about surviving volatility and building optionality. You want access to cash, access to credit, access to income that moves with you. Liquidity is king in uncertain times. The jobs of the future won't be all tech, but they will reward emotional intelligence, persuasion, storytelling, strategy, vision, critical thinking. These skills are portable, they grow with time, they compound just like money. Don't keep all your assets in one currency, country, or system. Invest in global index funds. Learn about commodities and precious metals. If possible, earn money in multiple currencies. Hedge your exposure when you can. Even a small amount of international diversification can protect you from local shocks. Stay aware of currency trends, central bank policies, inflation reports, political shifts. But focus on what you can control: your budget, your income stream, your risk exposure, your mindset. Globalization is big, but your decisions still matter more than the headlines. Don't wait until your currency loses value. Don't wait until your job is automated. Don't wait until your savings are eaten by inflation. The people who thrive in the next 10 years will be those who act early, adopt quickly, and invest consistently. If you have felt anxious lately, like you are running hard and getting nowhere, like the system isn't built for people like you are not imagining it. We have been taught to play a local game, but the world have moved on. You are living in a global economy, competing on a global stage, saving in a system that doesn't prioritize savers. But here is the shift. Once you understand the game, you can start to win it. You don't need to be rich to be smart. You don't need to be lucky to be resilient. You just need to wake up earlier than most people and start. Start small, start local, start now. Because the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to protect what you have already built. So, is your money safe? Not if you leave it unprotected. Not if you assume tomorrow will look like yesterday. Not if you keep playing a local game in global arena. But if you learn how the system works, if you adopt before you are forced to, if you build wealth like a global citizen even with the local tools, then yes, your money can be safe. Your future can be yours and your freedom is still within reach. This is Mr. Financial Mindset. I'm Muzaffar Teja, reminding you, you weren't born to obey systems. You were born to outsmart them and build wealth on your terms in any economy. Stay focused, stay informed, stay in control. I'll see you in the next one.